Hello everybody, welcome back to Big J Gaming, where today we're going to be diving into the top 10 tips that I found for The Walking Dead Online. I decided that it'd be a good idea to make a video on some tips that I think would help new players who are just getting into the game, you know, and so let's get right into it. Alright, coming in number one, first things first is the military zombies and the sheriff zombies. As you can see right here, I'm fighting some walkers and I killed a military walker and got ACR and a vest. Very, very good source of weapons as well as armor from the sheriff and the military walkers. You can kill the military walkers for ballistic helmets and plate carriers as well as an ACR. It's a potential and it's a good source of those supplies, while sheriff zombies can drop a USP, and the regular police zombies, like deputy zombies perhaps, can drop police vests, which are very important for combat. As you can see right here in this clip where I'm fighting, uh, it's incredibly important for your survival that you are able to survive that maybe that one extra bullet, because you don't know when it is. You might get shot in the head once, might get shot in the chest, and it might save your life. That armor might save your life. And if you have the ability to get it uh, relatively easily, then I would take that opportunity. Plate carriers and the helmets, incredibly, incredibly important, and the firearms that you can get are extremely useful for prolonging your survival. Coming in number two, uh, take a picture of this real life map, and if you need a picture, please take it now. You could pause the video and whatnot. The map is extremely important to learn, but it's really only found in game unless you decide to take a real life picture like I have. It helps with navigation so you can get around, find all the locations in some of the more hidden areas. It's it's a lot easier if you're going from place to place looking for loot or looking for players or groups if you know where stuff is, so you aren't just left completely aimless, not knowing what to do, where to go. So for any of you who need a map, just find a picture, find that billboard that was in the video earlier, and anywhere in the map, and take a picture of it or take a screenshot so you have it for later. It's really, really important for your longevity, especially if you want to become more well-versed in the game here. Coming in number three is to be cautious when you're driving around the map, especially with vehicles. As you can see right here, I got into a car, and then I got killed as soon as I got out of the car. It's a lesson for any of you who are maybe newer to the game, maybe playing solo. If you are driving around the map, maybe you come across a vehicle, or even if you're just walking around the map, just be careful. Make sure you like scout areas, look around for whatever it is you can find. You make sure you know where you're going, because it's extremely important that you know if there's going to be people there who want to kill you. Otherwise, you might get killed, like I did earlier. And if you, and as you're learning the game, you might feel the need to protect yourself from any hostile survivors. The best way to avoid getting killed is to just see them ahead of time and avoid fighting them. Pick your battles. Know what battles you could possibly win. You might not be able to do that as easy in the earlier, the first bit of playing, but you'll be able to eventually get it um, the longer you play the game, and hopefully Alright, tip number 4, ladies and gentlemen, aim for the head. As you can see right here, one shot, one kill. To those who might not be wearing helmets or armor, mainly just helmets, one shot to the head is usually sufficient to take out an enemy. So if you're in a fight or if you're going to ambush someone, always go for the head. Center mass is not a bad idea. It's a little bit, it's more shots, and since you can move around, you can jump around a lot and run around. Uh, it's a lot easier to avoid fire. So if you ever have a chance to hit a headshot, a good headshot, or even if you knock someone out by shooting them in the chest, when they're wearing a plate carrier, take that. Take that opportunity. It's best that you always try and take out your enemies as quickly as possible, get the loot, and get out of there. Because, one, you want to conserve ammunition that is usually more difficult to find unless you kill a lot of players. But as you can see right here, not as difficult because this location isn't really looted. But I think for any new players, if you want to really develop a sustainable strategy, I think the first thing would be to realize that ammo is extremely hard to come by. And even loading in an ammo box doesn't guarantee you'll have enough bullets later down the line. So you need to be wise in how you use your rounds. That leads me to my next tip, actually killing the walkers. See, I did kill one earlier, but I want to make it clear for any of you who don't know the proper way to kill walkers, at least what I consider the proper way, as you see here. Preferably a melee weapon. If any melee weapon, probably the hatchet, because it's a two-shot kill. You want to use melee weapons because, one, as I said before, ammo is limited, so you want to be careful with what you use it for, and it's probably not best to use it for walkers you can either avoid or you can just kill with melee weapons, and save the bullets for players, like right here. A bullet save for a walker is one that can be used toward a player when you're in trouble. And instead, using a melee weapon means also you could possibly even get a gun, like I said earlier. The melee zombies who can drop guns, the police zombies, or even just regular zombies who drop useful food and water. I mean, that's really important. You don't want to waste bullets on stuff that's either common or things that you're going to need later down the line because of the fact that ammo is so scarce. So that also means at that same time that you probably want to, when you can, avoid the walkers. You don't have to kill them all the time. I usually kill the military ones, that's who I mainly target, but I don't go out of my way to kill them very often. It's just a good idea to get in the habit of always having someone with a melee weapon. If you're in a group or if you're by yourself, just have a melee weapon. It's really important so that, one, people won't know where you are. It's a lot more difficult to find you if you're not firing gunshots, and it's a lot easier to take advantage of the possibility of finding an ACR or perhaps some armor on one of the walkers. I mean, as you can see right here, I'm axing these walkers to death, which would have taken 3 bullets, that would have been, like I used against that guy right there. That's consequential in the grand scheme of things. So I would advise that all players prioritize the use of melee weapons against the walkers, mainly like how they do, in the show, and as a general rule of thumb. Alright, for the next tip, you need to avoid populated areas if you cannot fight. Now see, where I'm walking right here is I'm walking alongside a road. Typically, when you're traveling, you want to be cautious, like I said earlier in that tip, but you also want to avoid some of the more populated areas like the prison. See here, ran into a player. I can't fight because I only have a frying pan. This guy's got a knife. I don't even know if I'm capable of killing the guy. I was hoping he would be friendly so I wouldn't have to and I could find a gun, maybe kill him later. But unfortunately, well, as you can see, things didn't exactly go that way. We were fighting a little bit and he made me bleed, made me lose a lot of health, so I decided to heal up a little bit, well, stop the bleeding, and run away to save my life. And look, there's another player approaching. And then they're going to start fighting. Kind of cut your losses because it's probably not worth dying for his knife or even his water bottle. It's just not worth it. Avoiding these populated areas when you cannot fight is going to be important early game if you're not like a PvP god, because there might be groups there and you're not going to be taking out 4 or 5 people with just one M17 more than likely. So it means that you have to get your loot either from the military zombies, which is probably the best call, or loot the less populated areas. Prison's usually most populated. Woodbury I see populated. King County, usually. Agricultural region, usually. Some less populated areas. That truck stop earlier in the video. The Sanctuary. Hilltop's usually pretty populated, but depending on the dynamic of your server and the type of players that are playing, if there's a faction that likes to base there, you can determine what is and what isn't, or what are the most active areas and what aren't. And you can, by that, using the map that I've hoped you took a picture of, decide where you'd want to go loot and find what you need before getting into a fight with other players. Preferably, if you're one guy, keeping it one-on-one to maximize your chance of survival, which is all we want here. We want you to survive and not get killed by the groups. You know, live to fight another day, as the phrase goes. All right, next up is make sure you find a team to play with. As you just saw right there, I was playing with some friends, and I shot that guy in the head who killed my friend. My friend came back to loot, and so I killed him. And the general rule is you want to have a group, for the most part. Safety in numbers, it's a good idea. There's a lot of factions in this game, so I highly recommend playing with friends or maybe befriending randoms in game. That's riskier than having friends who you already have played games with, because you know most people KOS. It's a risk, but either way, safety in numbers is kind of the name of the game. So if anything, you want to have some reliable people who have your back, who you can travel with, and it'll be a lot easier for you to fight in those populated areas. As you can see, I'm here with my friend, and we are traveling around the map. And we did pretty good. You know, we've killed people, we've fought groups and won, we've lost sometimes. But having one or two extra people, having 3 people in a group means you can place a banner, which that's pretty important because you can respawn there and have a base. That's extremely important for later down the line if you want to succeed in this game in the long term. So be careful out there. All right, next up, inventory management. More specifically, well, more just carry a lot of food and water. Very specifically, you just need to carry a lot of food and water. Not because it's really scarce, usually it's common, but the reason I suggest is when you're playing this game, it's a lot of moving around. When you're fighting, you're trying to get after players and whatnot, you're moving around a lot. And oftentimes that means you're not just stopping, checking every little nook and cranny, and you're just looking for players to kill, and you might check some high-profile locations. But don't forget that you need to have food and water to survive. It's really important. While at the moment, I'm unsure whether that has an effect on health regeneration. What I do know is that you need to have it to survive if you want to live. So always carry food and water. It's really important stuff. All right. And that also means, in addition, your hotbar. That's important. Now right here, what we got is my hotbar setup. Usually 1, 2, and 3 are a gun. 4 is a melee weapon, personal preference. 5 and 6 are another gun. 7 is a bandage. 8 is water. 9 is food. That's how I like to keep it set up. So you have your firearms ready to go. You have a melee weapon for the walkers. You have a bandage in case you bleed. And you have food and water ready to go in case you are running low. I think that's really important because that means you have everything you need right in the hotbar, and it's not disorganized. You're not like frantically selecting things, trying to find what you need. And once you get a good consistent rhythm of how you like your hotbar set up, if you like it the way I like it or some other way, then it'll be a lot easier to respond quickly in combat and respond quickly in more tense situations. It's really important. Combat awareness when you're fighting, knowing where the enemy is, all that's made possible by muscle memory, not having to think about what you need to do. Like, hey, I need an ACR. Boom, I press 1. I got my ACR. Easy peasy. I'm not like, oh, where's my ACR? Do I have it selected? Do I have the right one? So, yeah. Next up, inventory management. Specifically, where to put things. Personally, I like an organized inventory. And as you can see right here, my inventory scheme is pretty basic. Ammo on the top is where I like to keep it. Food and water in kind of rows going down or maybe side to side depending on your preference. And then at the very bottom, as you saw, like extra weapons or armor I had for friends. It's good to have an organized inventory so you know what you have. You can always see if you have what you need in case people are in your team are needing something. I personally like to carry extra things for my team, extra ammunition, pick up as much as I can. That's really, really important. And I think for teams, you need to carry that stuff with you, carry that extra stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, those have been my 10 tips for you for The Walking Dead online. I hope you enjoyed this video, had a good time. I hope you learned something above all else, and you enjoyed watching it. Maybe you'll consider subscribing. And if you have any recommendations for what I should play or perhaps what other videos I should do, please let me know in the comments. Have a good day and much love.